Hello everyone, welcome to the past year questions analysis of KVPY. So we are looking at the KVPY essay paper discussion 2019 chemistry part. We'll start with part 1, which is the 1 mark questions. Look at this. The hybridizations of nitrogen, carbon, oxygen shown in the following compound. See, how do we conclude the hybridization? Based on the number of pi bonds, because for the pi bond formation, right, we will be requiring pure p or d orbitals. So let's talk about the nitrogen first. It is forming double bond, means what? There is one sigma and one pi, means nitrogen is forming one pi bond. See, nitrogen, right, in its valence shell, it has got one s orbital, three p orbitals. In that it is forming one pi bond, means what? One of the pure p orbitals should be kept aside for the pi bond formation. So the remaining is what? 1s, 2p orbitals. So the hybridization of the nitrogen is going to be what? sp2. Then let us look at the carbon. Carbon, if you see, right, this side there is a pi bond, this side there is another pi bond. So carbon is forming two pi bonds. Meaning what? In carbon also we have in the valence shell 1s orbital and then 3p orbitals. It has to form two pi bonds, means what? Two of the pure p orbitals should be kept aside. The remaining is what? 1s and 1p. So sp hybridization. Sometimes, when you have questions like this, right, we may be able to conclude the answer by just looking at the two values. See, already we got nitrogen is sp2, carbon is sp. We have to check whether we can conclude the answer based on this itself, because that will obviously save us some time, right? So nitrogen is sp2, carbon is sp. See, option A as well as option C, both of them are giving us what? Nitrogen sp2, carbon sp. So unless we calculate for the oxygen also, we cannot finalize what is the answer. So we definitely have to check the last also. Oxygen, it is forming a double bond, means what? There is one pi bond. So oxygen also same concept, right? It will have one s orbital and then three p orbitals in the valence shell. One of the pure p orbital is used for the pi bond formation, which means the remaining is what? One s orbital and then two p orbitals. Hybridization is what? sp2. So nitrogen sp2, carbon is sp, and then again oxygen will be what? sp2. Check it, what is the answer? It is what? Option A. Next we have a question based on the isomerism. The following compounds, look at this, what is this? This is alkyne. This is what? There are two double bonds in this compound. So we call them as what? Dienes. Two double bonds. So we can have alkynes as well as the dienes with same molecular formula. What is the difference between them? Here we have the functional group as a triple bond. Here we have functional groups as the double bond. So what do we call them as? We will be calling them as what? Functional group isomers. That's it. Next we have a reaction based question. The major product of the following reaction. So what is this? This is two halogens, bromines, are on the adjacent carbons. We call it as what? Vicinal dihalide. We are treating this with what? Excess alcoholic KOH. What is alcoholic KOH? Dehydrohalogenating agent. So when we treat this with an alcoholic KOH, what happens? That will be resulting in what? The elimination reaction, removal of the HBr. So we'll see what happens when we are using the alcoholic KOH. It will be eliminating HBr. That's why we call it as what? Dehydrohalogenation reaction. And the compound that we will get, if it further undergoes a reaction with sodium amide, it's a very strong base. When it is reacting with the compound that is formed after the first stage of elimination, what we will be able to obtain is, there will be second stage of elimination. we will be able to get a alkyne. In fact, we will get a sodium salt of the alkyne, which on hydrolysis, right, will be able to give us the exact alkyne itself. In fact, for this reaction, right, we don't require the alcoholic OH itself. The vicinal dihalides, when they are reacting with sodium amide, that itself will be able to straight away give us the alkyne. Okay, so this is the final product. So what is the final product? pH C triple bond CH. So what is the answer? It is option A. In fact, just to tell you, right, this is also a method for the conversion of alkenes into alkynes. So you take an alkene, add bromine, we'll get what? A vicinal dihalide. Then treat this with sodium amide. So we will be able to straight away get, like I said, right, here we don't even require the alcoholic OH. Straight away we will get what? Alkyne will come. So this is the proper method for the conversion of alkene into alkyne. Next we have a question based on the nomenclature. We will see them quite often. The IUPAC name of the following compound. So in this compound, right, we have a keto group, OH group and double bond. What is the highest priority? Keto group is the highest priority. So we have to start our numbering from here. We can have two numbering because we are numbering in a ring, right? We can have it like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In this case, the other two functional groups are what? Double bond will get a locant value of 2 and OH group will get a locant value of what? 5. If we number it like this. If we number the ring other way around, other way means what? Like this. We start from here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then here you see in this, right, the locant will be what? 3, 5 will come. We follow the least locant rule, right, which means what? When we take the positions of these functional groups in the ascending order, wherever we will get least locant. So the ascending order, we have to arrange the position numbers. When you arrange them like that, right, where do we get the least locant? So the first comparison will be between 2 and 3, which is the least? 2 is the least. So this will be the preferred numbering system. We have to follow the least locant rule. What is the least locant rule? We first have to arrange the position numbers or the locants of the functional groups in the increasing order. Then wherever we will find the least locant by comparing one place by another place, like first place, what is it? 2. Here it is what? 3. Compare both of them, 2 is the least. So we have to choose the numbering system 1 as the most preferred. If in the first position both are coming equal, then we will try to compare the second locant. If they are also equal, then we will try to compare the third locant, like that. So here what is the preferred numbering system? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So on second position we have the double bond. And fifth position we have the OH group. Remember, OH, it is going to come in the prefix now. So we will be calling it as what? Hydroxy. When OH is coming in the prefix, we call it as what? Hydroxy. When it comes in the suffix, it will be what? OL. So what is it? 5 hydroxy. What is the ring? It is basically a 6-membered ring. So 5 hydroxy, a cyclic compound, right? What is it? Cyclohex. On second carbon we have the double bond. 2N. On first carbon we have the ketone. So remember, here we are also using that rule in the name, right? IUPAC name, we have the prefix. Then there is the root word. Then we have a primary suffix and secondary suffix. Normally double bond means what? EN, ENE. when the secondary suffix is starting with an vowel, A, E, I, O, U, you can see the secondary suffix is starting with O. The end E of the primary suffix should be removed. The primary suffix will have E means what? E and E, right? Normally, the end E of the primary suffix will be removed when the secondary suffix is starting with an vowel. Okay, so that rule also we are using. So what is the correct answer for this? 5-hydroxy cyclohex 2N1O. Next we have a straight NCERT question, class 11th based. In water gas shift reaction, hydrogen gas is produced from the reaction of steam with. So where do we get this? I mean, we'll get this in hydrogen and its compound chapter. So when we do the coal gasification, we pass steam over the red hot coke. What we'll get is the mixture of carbon monoxide and hydrogen gas. This is what we'll be calling as coal gas or syngas. Now indirectly what is it giving us is it is able to produce the hydrogen gas, this reaction. If we want to increase the amount of hydrogen we can obtain, what we will do is we will further allow this to react with some more steam. So see what happens, the production of the dihydrogen rate can be increased by allowing the reaction to happen with some more steam. In that what happens, the carbon monoxide, right, will get oxidized to what? CO2. By the action of steam on carbon monoxide, it will get oxidized to what? CO2. That will happen in the presence of iron chromate as a catalyst, but we will see that additional hydrogen gas is being produced. So this reaction, right, we are able to produce additional hydrogen gas because of the reaction between the steam and the carbon monoxide. Okay, so first step is what? In the coal gasification, first step is what? Steam acting on coke. There we will get the coal gas, mixture of CO and hydrogen. If we further allow it to react with some more steam, then what we will get? The action of steam on carbon monoxide will give us what? Carbon dioxide and hydrogen gas. So what is the answer for this? Option C. Next we have another textbook question. This is also from the hydrogen and its compounds. Treatment of lime can remove hardness of water by. See, we have a process called as what? Clark's method. See, some measured amount of lime when it is added to the hard water. So here we will be able to treat the water which has got a temporary hardness. Temporary hardness means what? Bicarbonates. So either you have a calcium bicarbonate or magnesium bicarbonate. When we treat this with lime, calcium hydroxide, what we will see is the corresponding calcium ions will get precipitated, calcium or magnesium ions. See here, calcium bicarbonate, it will be leading to formation of calcium carbonate, that will precipitate. In case of the magnesium, we will see that between magnesium carbonate and magnesium hydroxide, right, the magnesium hydroxide will be able to precipitate first because of the solubility product comparison. The solubility product comparison will favor the precipitation of magnesium hydroxide first. This we will study in ionic equilibrium, meaning which salt will precipitate first will depend upon what is the solubility product of the salt. Okay, so salt which is less soluble, right, will precipitate more. But here the question is totally different. What is it? They are just asking the treatment of lime can remove hardness of water caused by. So what is it? It will be able to remove the temporary hardness of water, right? Temporary hardness means it is because of the bicarbonates. So among the options, right, what is the bicarbonate that we can choose? Calcium bicarbonate. This is a question on the Fazan's rules, chemical bonding. So what is it? The most polarizable ion among the following. So when you talk about the anion, which has already got a negative charge by gaining the electron, there will be a tendency for the anion to forego the negative charge towards a cation, and this phenomena is what we call as what? The anion getting polarized. So for that, right, for having the anion getting more polarized, the favorable conditions are, one is charge. When the charge on the anion is more, the repulsions will lead to what? The anion getting easily polarized. Second thing is the size. When the size is more means what? The electrons that are gained, they will be under lesser influence of the nucleus. Nucleus will not be able to influence them much. So that those electrons in the outermost orbit, right, they will be getting easily polarized. So the favorable conditions are what? One is the charge, second is the size. So here, look at the anions. What are the anions we are talking about here? All halogens, fluorine, chlorine, iodine, all are having the same charge. So there is no comparison in terms of charge here. Then we will have to focus on the size part. Among the halogens or any group for that matter, right, as we go down the group, what happens? Size of atoms as well as ions increases. Means what? In the group, the fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, after that we will have astatine, but let's leave that. What we will see is that the largest is what? Iodine. So since the size is highest, the iodide ion, I minus, will get polarized more. Okay, so what is the answer for this? It is what? Option B. Okay. Next we have a question on the energy based on the quantum numbers, energy comparison. For a multi-electron atom, the highest energy level among the following is, see, the energy, right, will be depending upon both the values of principal quantum number and the azimuthal quantum number. So the sum of this n plus L value is what we will take as the criteria for deciding the energy level comparison. So wherever the n plus value is low, the energy of the particular subshell will be what? Less. Wherever the n plus L value is higher, the energy of the particular subshell will be what? More. So we will just do one by one comparison. Option A, n is 5, L is what? 0. So n plus L is what? 5. Option B, n 4, 2. So n plus L will be what? 6. Option C, 4 and 1. Option D, 5 plus 1. What is it? Now we have a tie. B as well as D, both are giving us what? Same value of n plus L. When we have the same value of n plus L, the subshell with a lower value of n will have less energy. That basically indicates what? The energy, yes, it depends upon both the principal quantum number and the azimuthal quantum number. But when we are comparing, right, there will be more consideration for the principal quantum number. So wherever the value of n, principal quantum number, is lower, obviously there the energy will be what? Less. Means look at it, here n is what? 4, here n is 5, which is the lesser one? So between B and D, the B will have lower energy, but remember what we are looking for? We are looking for where we will have the highest energy. So what is the answer? Option D. So first we have compared n plus L. There is a tie between B and D because they have the highest value. N plus L value 6. How did we resolve the tie? When you have the same value of n plus L, wherever the principal quantum number value is lesser, that will be what? Lower energy comparatively. Next we have a question on the nature of the oxides. The oxides which is neither acidic nor basic. See, remember, when we talk about the oxides which can react with both acids as well as bases, right, we call them as amphoteric. Like, aluminum oxide, even, As2O3, that is also amphoteric. Neither acidic nor basic means they will neither react with acids nor will react with bases. Okay, like for example N2O, it's what? It's a neutral oxide. N2O is what? It's a neutral oxide. Is it neither acidic nor basic. Same like even carbon monoxide, that is also what, it's a neutral oxide. So there is a difference between amphoteric oxides and neutral oxides. Amphoteric oxides, they will react with both acids as well as bases. Neutral oxides, right, they will not react with either acids or bases. So here what is the answer? It is option C, which is what, N2O. Okay. Now generally, right, when you look at the other options, as we said, As2O3 is what, it's amphoteric. It will react with both acids as well as bases, just like, you know, the aluminum oxide. Sb4O10. Okay, so this is what, the oxide of antimony. Generally in any element, right, the oxides having higher oxygen content, the oxides having higher oxygen content, they will tend to be more acidic. Even when you compare the oxides of nitrogen itself, right, like starting from N2O, we are saying N2O is what, neutral. We go to NO, then we'll go to NO2, then we'll go to NO3, then we'll go to N2O5. So the oxides having higher amount of oxygen content, right, they will be what, they will tend to be acidic. And you know, you'll see that, you know, Sb4O10, right, will be what, it will be an acidic oxide. We know very well Na2O is what, it's a basic oxide. We'll get what, when you dissolve Na2O in water, we'll get what, sodium hydroxide. So we can remember at least some of these neutral oxides, like, you know, carbon monoxide, N2O, all these are what, neutral oxides. So N2O, what is it? It's also commonly called as what, laughing gas, nitrous oxide. Next we have another straight question from the NCERT. It's about the flame test. The element whose salts cannot be detected by the flame test. See, what is a flame test? When we have an oxidizing flame, means what, the flame that is burning with ample amount of oxygen, and we heat either the elements of first and second group, importantly, even some transition elements also, or their compounds, they will be able to impart a characteristic color to the flame. The idea is when the electrons, they will get excited and get de-excited, right, that will result in radiation being emitted. So they will absorb the heat from the flame, get excited, and when they are de-exciting, they will release the radiation, and that is how we are able to see the characteristic color of the flame test. Now one of the important part about the first group elements is that the first group elements, right, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, they all will be able to impart characteristic color. Like lithium is what, crimson red, sodium is what, yellow, potassium violet, rubidium is what, red violet, cesium is what, blue. Similarly, in the second group, other than beryllium, magnesium, you talk about calcium, strontium, barium, they also will be able to impart color. Calcium is what, brick red, strontium is what, crimson, barium, what is the characteristic color for the flame? It is what, apple green. Even copper also, right, will be able to give color, a blue green color. But why beryllium and magnesium in the second group they will not be able to give characteristic color is because in these elements, right, the electrons are tightly bound to the nucleus. As a result of it, what happens is when the electrons are tightly bound, because remember the reason we are able to see a characteristic color is because the energy that is radiated is falling in the visible spectrum, isn't it? So when you say that we are able to see the crimson red, means what, the energy of the radiation is falling in the visible spectrum. So here the energy required to excite the electrons will be higher, so that will not be falling in the visible spectrum. That is the reason why we will not be able to see with our naked eye a characteristic color given by the beryllium or magnesium in the second group. But here what is the answer? which element or which element salts we cannot detect by using flame test means we have to choose because beryllium is not given, right? We have to choose what? Magnesium. All others will be giving their characteristic colors, whether it is sodium or strontium. Sodium is what? Yellow. Strontium is what? It is the crimson color. Then we have copper, blue, green color. Okay, so only the magnesium will not be able to give the flame test. Next we have a question based on chemical kinetics. Now as such we know chemical kinetics comes in +2 chemistry. But the thing is sometimes in KVPY they can still give us some basic or elementary questions based on the +2 topics also. That is the reason why we keep saying, just try and go through the past year paper so that we'll understand the expectation. The plot of concentration of reactant versus time is given. So concentration versus time. Look at this. What is it? It's a straight line. Any reaction, reactant concentration decreases with time. But how it is decreasing, you see, the rate of decrease. Here it is a constant value. You see the slope is what? For a straight line means slope will be constant. So in the terminology of the chemical kinetics, right, minus delta C by delta T. Delta C by delta T will be what? Rate of change of concentration. We put a minus means because here delta C will be negative, right? Concentration decreases. You put a minus means what? That will be rate of decrease of concentration. It will be a constant value. You see, this is independent of the concentration. If you have it like K into C power 1, that will be called as what? The first order reaction. K into C power 2, that will be what? Second order. Like that. So here what is it? It is just a constant means what? We will say K into C power 0. That is actually what? The 0 order. So what is the answer for this? It is what? A 0 order reaction. In fact, we can even derive what we call as a rate expression. How the concentration will change with respect to time. I'll just show you guys. See what is there? Minus delta C means what? Final concentration minus initial concentration. So here C0 we'll take it as what? Initial concentration. Divide by the time interval, let's say T. We'll just rearrange it. Multiply with minus. C0 minus C is equal to what? T will go to the numerator, KT. Again rearrange them. C0 minus KT is equal to what? C. You see how it is? This is the concentration. Y is equal to C0 is a constant minus M into T is like the X variable. Y is equal to what? C minus Mx. It is a line with a negative slope. That's it. So this is the rate equation, like that we'll say for the 0 order, right? What is it? The concentration at a point of time C will be equal to what? C0, original concentration minus K into T. Next we have a question based on thermodynamics. During the free expansion is what? When the external pressure is 0, expansion in vacuum of an ideal gas in an isolated chamber. Isolated chamber means what? The system is totally isolated, means the heat exchange will be what? 0. They are asking about the changes that can happen. See, when you say free expansion, what is the speciality of the free expansion? The work interaction between the system and surrounding, right? What is the original work interaction formula? Minus integral P external dV. This is the original as per the thermodynamics convention. Work is always calculated based on what? The external pressure. If it is free expansion means this external pressure is 0. Means what? W will come out to be what? 0. W will come as what? 0 in case of free expansion. Since it is isolated already, delta Q will be 0. And what is the first law of thermodynamics? If you are having the heat exchange and work, the heat exchange plus work, that will result in what? Change in the internal energy of the system. So here what is the heat exchange value? 0. Work is also what? 0, which means what? Delta U will be 0. Means what? Change in internal energy is 0. So internal energy will remain constant. So what is the answer for this? Option A. It's a very standard question. I think even in previous year, once NEET also, they have asked the same question. Next, we have a question based on the basic concepts of chemistry. The number of moles of water present in a spherical water droplet of radius. They are giving the density of the water. See, what is the radius of the spherical droplet? 1 centimeter. Means the volume will be equal to what? Sphere volume is what? 4 by 3 pi r cube. Means what? 4 by 3 pi r is what? 1 centimeter, right? Means 1 centimeter cube. That is the volume. Density is given 1 gram per centimeter cube. From here we can calculate what is the mass. What is the mass formula? Density into volume. So density is what? 1 gram per centimeter cube into volume is what? 4 by 3 pi centimeter cube. So what is it? Look at it. 4 by 3 pi in terms of grams. This is the mass of the water that is present. Now we need to calculate what is the number of moles of water present. See, how do you calculate the number of moles? The number of moles will be always given mass by molar mass. For water, right? What is the molar mass? It is 18 grams. So what is it? Given mass is what? 4 pi by 3 grams divided by 18 grams. Gram gets cancelled. 2 2s are 2 9s are. So what is it? 2 pi by 9 into 3 will come. What is it? 2 pi by 27. So this is what is the number of moles. So just what we are doing, we are calculating what is the mass of the water in the droplet by just doing product of density with volume. From there we are able to find what is the number of moles given mass by molar mass. Next we have another question based on the structure of atom. Already we saw one question about the quantum numbers and energy comparison. So this is about the cathode ray tube experiment. So normally what do we know? The setup where you have the discharge tube with low density and low pressure conditions. We will insert 2 electrodes, negative and positive. When sufficiently high voltage is applied, then we will see that a beam of rays appear to move in straight line from cathode to the anode. So these rays are called as what? Cathode rays. Later, the properties of cathode rays, like they can create mechanical impact. Means what? They are not actually light rays, they are made up of particles. Since they are moving from the negative electrode to the positive electrode, they must be carrying a negative charge. So all these things, and even the properties of these charged particles in terms of the charge by mass ratio, specific charge. This will not depend upon what is the nature of the electrodes used, and also it does not depend upon what is the nature of the gas that is there inside the discharge tube. Whether we have a hydrogen or a helium does not matter. So from there only the idea of the electrons being the fundamental particles has come, which are present in all types of atoms. So look at these. So we have to conclude which of the statements are actually correct. The electrical discharge can only be observed at high pressure and low voltage. In fact, that is the other way around. We will be having what? Low pressure and high voltages. Then the statement B, in the absence of external electric and magnetic field, cathode rays travel in straight lines. In fact, they travel in straight lines. But if you apply a magnetic field or electric field, right, in +2 physics you will be learning about it. Actually, how the magnetic field will be able to deflect the moving charges. But here just the idea. So you can see there is a magnet. It's a permanent magnet, right? So when we take a permanent magnet close to the discharge tube, what you are able to see that it is able to deflect the cathode rays which are otherwise traveling in straight line. So this is actually the correct one. We are looking for what? The correct statement, right? That's it. We got option B. We can even check the others. Look at option C, what they are saying. The characteristics of the cathode rays depend upon the material of electrode. No, they don't depend upon the material of the electrode. The characteristics of the cathode rays depend upon the gas present. No, they also don't depend upon the gas. Whether the gas is hydrogen, nitrogen, The characteristics means when you look at the specific charge of these particles, right, it comes out to be the same. From there only the conclusion of the electrons being fundamental particles present in all atoms has come, right. So what is the correct answer for this? Option B. Next question from the thermodynamics. For a spontaneous process, remember, spontaneous process we can understand by using the delta G, change in the Gibbs free energy. This is one. The other way of understanding a spontaneous process is by looking at the entropy change. But not just for the system. A spontaneous process, right, will result in the overall entropy of the universe increasing, means entropy change of the system plus entropy change of the surroundings, because system plus surroundings is not universe. The overall entropy change must be what? Positive. So this will make a spontaneous process. So what is the correct answer for this? It is option D. The entropy change of the system plus surrounding means what? The universe must be positive, means the overall entropy of the universe is increasing. Look at option A, it's not correct because it is only talking about the enthalpy change. We cannot conclude about the spontaneity based on just the enthalpy part. So the correct answer for this is what? Option D. We have two ways of determining the spontaneity of a process. Either we will look at what is the Gibbs free energy change for the process, that must be what? Delta G must be negative for a spontaneous process. Either that way. Other way is what? Look at the overall entropy change of the universe. So we are done with the first part where we have seen the 1 mark questions. Now we will get into the 2 marks questions. PbO2 is obtained from, okay, so lead can actually form two oxides, PbO and PbO2. Option A, the reaction of PbO with HCl. It will be giving us what? PbCl2. It will not give us PbO2. Thermal decomposition of PbNO3 twice. It will be giving us what? PbO and not PbO2. So this is a question from the 14th group, P block. Option C, the reaction of Pb3O4 with HNO3. So Pb3O4, when it is acted upon by the nitric acid, right, we will get what? Lead nitrate as well as PbO2, lead 4 oxide. So what do we call it as? We will be calling it as what? Lead 4 oxide. That's it. So what is the answer? It is what? Option C. In option D, right, the reaction of Pb with air at the room temperature, actually on the surface of the lead, right, will form a layer of the lead carbonate. So what is the correct answer for this? Option C. Next, a question from the states of matter. It's about the real gases. For 1 mole of van der Waals gas means what? Real gas. The compressibility factor Z at fixed volume will certainly decrease, means we are looking for the Z value to actually decrease. So how do we identify what are the conditions? We will have to use the real gas equation. What is it? P plus, for 1 mole of gas, A by V square into V minus B is equal to RT. This is the van der Waals equation for 1 mole of the gas. We will take an LCM. P into V square plus A by V square is equal to RT. We will take this V square and V minus B to the right side. P into V square plus A is equal to what? RT into V square by V minus B. We will divide both sides with RT. Split the term. PV square by RT plus A by RT is equal to what? V square by V minus B. Now we will see how we will be able to, because we have to identify the condition where the Z will certainly be decreasing. That is the condition we are looking for. Okay. So see what will be the condition that we can arrive at. This is what? PV into V. Why I am writing like this? Because I am looking for the Z value is equal to, let us take this to the right side. V square by V minus B minus A by RT it becomes. What is this? Z into V is equal to what? V square by V minus B minus A by RT. So this is the final expression we have. Now from here only we have to draw the conclusions. Okay. So how we will be able to draw the conclusion? We have to check. How we can draw the conclusion if the volume is basically fixed. So we don't have to bother about the volume part. Look at this. Second term is there, first term is there. It's like what? First term minus second term. A is there in the numerator of second term. Means what? A is increasing means what? Second term increases. Second term increasing means what? It is like we are subtracting more, because what is the expression? 1 minus 2, right? Second term increasing means we are subtracting more. So if the 2 is increasing means what? Overall the Z value will decrease, because Z into V is equal to what? First term minus second term, right? So if you increase A, that will result in what? Decrease of the Z value. That is the condition in terms of the A. Now let us talk in terms of the B. Where is B coming? B is coming in the first term. Where is it? It is coming in the denominator. So if B is decreasing, means what? Look at the denominator, right? V minus B will increase. B is decreasing means what? It's like we are subtracting less value from B. So V minus B value will be what? Increasing. V minus B is coming in the denominator, right? If V minus B increasing means what? The overall first term value will be decreasing. The first term decreases means what? Z also has to decrease. So B decreasing, right, will also contribute for what? The Z value to be decreasing. Means what are the factors that will actually give us the Z value to decrease? Certainly B value decreasing, a decreasing B value and increasing A value. So we are not talking about the temperature, we are assuming temperature to be fixed. So as B decreases and A increases at constant temperature, right, what we will have? We will be having that the overall Z value will be what? Decreasing. Just once we get this expression right, we just have to draw the conclusion based on the expression, that's it. Okay. Now we will go to another question based on the structure of atom. You see, the importance of the chapter. The correct statements among the following: E 2s subshell of hydrogen. So these are what? Energy levels. E 2s of lithium, E 2s of sodium, E 2s of potassium. See, it is the basically the second orbit. We can say second orbit. I mean, comparing the energy levels of these are all called as what? The multi-electron. We don't have those formulas, but broadly what we can do is we can try and apply the Bohr's model concept, which is for single electron species. There what is the formula we have? Energy will be equal to what? Minus 13.6 electron volt into Z square by N square. And again telling you, we do not have a straight formula to compare the energy of these multi-electron atoms. We only have the Bohr's formula for the single electron species. But broadly what you can see is, as Z value is increasing, means what? E becomes more negative. Becoming more negative means what? E is also decreasing. Becoming more negative means what? E basically will be what? Decreasing. So hydrogen, lithium, sodium, potassium, what is it? As you go from hydrogen to lithium, energy will decrease. From lithium to sodium, energy will decrease. Sodium to potassium, energy will decrease. So this is the correct order. Same way, the maximum number of electrons in the shell with principal quantum number n is given by what? 2n square. That's the empirical formula, right? First orbit or first shell, what is the capacity? 2 into 1 square 2. Second shell, what is the capacity? 2 into 2 square, what is it? 8. Third shell, 2 into 3 square, what is it? 18. Fourth shell, 2 into 4 square, 32, like that. So this is also correct. By this itself we will get the answer. What is it? You look at these options, right? Only in option A we have 1 and 2 correct. I mean, we can check the other options also. What are the other options? Other statements. What is the statement 3? Extra stability of the half filled subshell is due to the smaller exchange energy. So in case of chromium, right, we have the extra stability of the half filled structure. Instead of 3d4 4s2, we will be getting what? 3d5 4s1. Extra stability of the half filled. In fact, why this happens is because of the large exchange energy. This is the expected, right, as per the rules of filling up of electrons. But why we are able to move one electron from the 4s to the 3d? Because it can give us what? Large exchange energy. That is the reason for the stability. So not only for the half filled but also for the fully filled. Like in copper, we will get what? Anomalous arrangement, right? There also the fully filled will be able to have what? Large exchange energy. So this is incorrect. Statement 4, only two electrons, irrespective of their spin, may exist in the same orbital. We know if you take an orbital means only two electrons can be there, but they will properly have what? Opposite spin. One is clockwise means other will be what? Anti-clockwise. That is why if one of them is having a spin quantum number plus half, other will have what? Minus half. Like that. So it's not about irrespective of their spin. So if one is clockwise means other has to be what? Anti-clockwise. But anyway, the answer for this is what? Option A. Statement 1, statement 2 are correct. Next we have the question based on basic organic chemistry estimation methods. In fact, this problem we can also solve by using the idea of the basic concepts of chemistry itself. An organic compound contains 46.78% of halogen X. When 2 grams of this compound is heated with fuming nitric acid in the presence of AgNO3, we will get what? 2.21 grams of AgX. From this we have to find what is the halogen X. So they have not directly given the information about the halogen, they are giving the information through the estimation method. So what is this estimation method? Halogens means we will talk about what? Carriers method. But that and all is not required for us. We will just solve this question by using the basic concepts of chemistry principle itself. I will tell you what is the idea. So the idea is we will try to find what is the atomic mass of the halogen X. From the estimation method, we will try to find what? Atomic mass of halogen X. They are giving the atomic masses. Look at it. Fluorine is what? 19. Chlorine, average atomic mass of the two isotopes, 35.5. Bromine is what? Approximately 80. Iodine 127. Once we calculate the atomic mass, right, using that we will tell what is that? Halogen. So where should we start? We should start with whatever is the initial information. What is it? They are saying organic compound is 2 grams. In that 46.78% is what? Halogen. Means we can tell what is the actual mass of halogen. How do you get it? 46.78% of 2 grams means 46.78 into 2 by 100. That will come close to what? 0.94. The entire halogen will be converting into what? AgX. Means in this AgX, right, what is AgX mass? 2.21 grams. In that 0.94 grams is what? Halogen. So the remaining will be silver part. Silver amount means what? 2.21 minus 0.94. That is what? 1.27. Now the next part is the most important one. How we will calculate the atomic mass? Because what we said, we have to calculate the atomic mass of halogen, right? How we will calculate the atomic mass of halogen? Look at the AgX formula. The number of moles of Ag is equal to number of moles of halogen. How do you calculate the number of moles of Ag? Silver mass by atomic mass 108. Let us say this is N. The number of moles of halogen will be same. Means this N value, right, 1.27 by 108 should be equal to what? Number of moles of halogen means what? The mass of halogen, what is it? 0.94 by the atomic mass of halogen, let us say A, that we don't know. So from here, we rearrange means what is it? A will be equal to what? 0.94 into 108 by 1.27. Here we don't need to calculate the exact value, just the approximate is fine. Because look at it, this we can see broadly is what? Roughly around 80. The other values, right? Fluorine means it should be 19, very low. Chlorine means 35.5. Iodine means 127. Okay, so what is the value? It is what? It will come close to 80, so means what? It should be bromine. So what is the approach here? First, using the initial information, we are able to calculate what is the mass of silver and the number of moles of silver. Based on the silver halide formula, right, we know that whatever is the number of moles of silver, same should be the number of moles of the halogen also. From there we are able to conclude what is that halogen. That's why I said no, this question can be solved with the basic concepts of chemistry. We don't need to have knowledge about the estimation methods in organic chemistry. Okay, so what is the answer for this? Option C, bromine. Next we have a core 12th question, because sometimes they can give questions like this also. An organic compound X with a molecular formula C6H10. That way, see, it's not like when I say core 12th means it is not like it will be totally based on the 12th syllabus. It will be related to the 11th concepts. So when you have the C6H10, right, what is it? CnH2n minus 2 type. This can be an alkyne or it can be a diene, 2 double bonds. When treated with HBr, right, it is forming a gem dibromide. Only alkynes, when we treat them with HBr, addition, Markovnikov rule, we will get what? Both the bromines added to the same carbon. So we will be getting what? A geminal dihalide or dibromide in this case, which means the compound X cannot be a diene. It should be what? It should be a alkyne, means either A or D. Let's read the second statement. This is where I said we will have to get into the little bit more reactions part of the +2 topics. The compound X upon warming with HgSO4 and dilute sulfuric acid. This is basically hydration. What is this? Hydration. Produces a ketone which gives positive iodoform test. See, first we should know what is iodoform test. When you have aldehydes or ketones which have at least one methyl group linked to the carbonyl carbon. So if you talk about the ketones means what? We must have these methyl ketones. What do we call them as? Methyl ketones. When they are reacting with the sodium hypohalite, like NaOCl, NaOBr, like that, they will be giving us sodium salt of carboxylic acid. You can see here this will have one carbon less than the original carbonyl compound. Along with that we will be getting what? The methyl group will be converting itself into what? The halo form. So generally we can call these reactions as what? Haloform reactions. Iodoform, bromoform, chloroform, like that. Okay. Based on the characteristic color of the haloform, right, we will be able to see whether the compound is giving a positive haloform test or a negative haloform test. Okay. So here we are referring to what? Iodoform test means we will get a characteristic yellow color. But for that, what is it? If it is a ketone means it should be what? Methyl ketone. If you have a terminal alkyne, right, when you do the hydration with HgSO4 and dilute sulfuric acid, look at this, you have a terminal alkyne. This will be what? Hydration means addition of water. It will be as per the Markovnikov rule. So the already we'll have a hydrogen here, one more hydrogen comes. Other things we are just drawing the skeletal structure. You know what this compound is? It will be called as enol, double bond alcohol group. The enol will tautomerize into the corresponding ketone. Okay, other things will be as it is. This is the ketone. You see what is the ketone? It is a methyl ketone. Thereby it can give us what? The positive iodoform test. So here already we have we said no, B and C cannot be there. It has to be an alkyne. But look at where we have a terminal alkyne. Only in D we have the terminal alkyne. A is not a terminal alkyne. So correct answer is what? Option D. So this is about the 2019 paper, and we will see in the one more past year KVPY analysis. All the very best.